All right, everybody, welcome to the Work Hard, Play Hard podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Harding, and today I got with me Angel Gutierrez. He is 6 years in the business and top 500 agent here in Utah. So this guy knows what he's doing. He's got some experience here and stuff. And so, anyhow, excited to have him here with us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
And I gave a little bit of an intro, but tell us a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up? You know, tell me a little bit about your family, stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah. So I grew up in Mexico,
Okay.
Mexico City to be exact. I came to the States when I was about 7, 8 years old. Grew up in Spanish Fork, Utah. That's where I went to junior high, high school, elementary school. And yeah, just kind of started doing real estate right away, and that's kind of that's what I've been doing.
And what got you into real estate? Why real estate?
Yeah, good question. Mainly, I really wanted to be a real estate investor growing up.
Okay.
Looking into that a little bit more, I realized I needed either a bunch of capital or just knowing, a good network. And I realized at the time I didn't have any of those.
Yeah, sure.
So I looked into it a little bit more. Realized I kind of needed a vehicle to get started on that, and then I was like, hey, why not just hop into real estate? That's kind of what got me into it.
Gotcha. And you've enjoyed it?
Oh yeah, it's been awesome. I didn't like it at first.
Sure.
I think a lot of people get misled a little bit when they do get the real estate license. They kind of think they expect something else, and it's totally different once you do get
Sure.
into it.
And so you've been doing it for 6 years. So you've seen quite a bit of difference in how real estate's gone, right?
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
you've seen the ups and downs, right?
Yeah.
Where you started probably when it was kind of quote unquote normal market,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, and then
That's
it got
right.
super hot,
Mhm.
right? And now it's kind of what it is now. Tell me how have you progressed during that time? I mean, have you been successful during that time? I mean, tell me a little bit about the last 6 years, I guess.
Yeah, no, great question. So the first couple years were rough. I think just learning the ropes, trying to learn everything, a lot of the ins and outs of the business.
Yeah.
And then it did start picking up a little bit. I think when those rough years though is where I got, I would say, a lot of my experience that serves me now.
Yeah.
Obviously, once it did pick up because of the COVID thing, I think everyone was doing well.
Yeah.
That was a good time, and now it's now that it's a little different, more back to a normal market. I think it's the fundamentals, if you want to call them that. That's
Sure.
where they really come into play, and the people who have been practicing those and trying to get better are the ones that are thriving right now.
So I like what you just said there with those first couple years were harder,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you stuck with it, and obviously did really well, right? I mean, I think that's maybe some advice for some people, realtors that are starting now, I guess, in this business. It is hard right now, but if they can stick with it,
That's right.
right? I mean, there's success on the other side potentially, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think
mean-
anyone could be successful in this business. I think it's just understanding that it's not going to be overnight.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, I think a lot of people who do get their license, they think once they get their license, deals are just going to come to them.
Sure.
And it's just not the case.
Yeah.
It's in fact the total opposite. You got to go really chase the clients and the deals. But yeah, no, it's been good.
Good,
Mm-hmm.
good. I guess anybody that started in the last couple of years probably kind of thought, oh, hey, I'm really successful. I'm good at this
Yeah.
already, right? I did
Yeah, it's
nothing.
really
I just-
easy.
Yeah, it's just really easy. But, I mean, have you seen that, I guess, as far as people you work with and things like that, where you've seen that, hey, to continue to be successful, you got to continue to work? I mean,
Yes.
tell me kind of back to the basics. What things are you doing right now to continue to get business?
Yeah, so it's kind of those things you first learn when you start is, hey, you gotta be, I call it touching people. You gotta do a lot of touches and follow up with people. The more people you talk to, the more business you're gonna have. I think that's been tried and true. And I think that's what I say by the fundamentals. It's that making sure you're doing the little things every day, following up with people, doing your calls, staying top of mind. If you're doing that, you're gonna be successful. It's inevitable.
Gotcha. Okay. Awesome. And tell me where you're at right now, brokerage-wise. Where are you working at?
Yeah, so I'm with Equity Real Estate.
Okay.
I've been there for about 2 years now, and they've been good. They treat me well.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a good time.
What would you recommend them to other realtors and stuff like that? I mean, what?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think there's pros and cons with all brokerages. I actually started before then. I was at Century 21.
Okay.
So more of a bigger brokerage, and I think they have their pros and cons. So if you do a ton of volume, it might benefit you to be in one of those brokerages, or if you're looking to be in a team,
Sure.
something like that. But more of this is a smaller brokerage.
Yeah.
But pros and cons with both. This one's a flat fee, so every time you close a transaction, you only pay a X amount.
Sure. Gotcha.
Versus maybe giving up 20-30% of your commission, which no one likes that.
No one likes that. And obviously those places, typically give you more, right? They try, typically, right? But not always, right?
Yeah, no, not
And
always.
so sometimes you're like, okay, why am I giving up all this money?
Right.
So.
And it's funny you say that. I've actually been a huge believer in it doesn't really matter what brokerage you're with. Like, I think a lot of people think, hey, I'm going to make the switch and now things are going to change.
Yeah.
It's just not the case. You could be successful at any brokerage, even if it's like a mom and pop brokerage, a super local one. It doesn't really matter. It kind of goes back to the same fundamentals. If you're doing that work, it's going to pay off.
Gotcha.
It doesn't really matter who you're with.
So elaborate a little bit more on that too, I guess. So you've been successful, top 500 agent, right? So obviously you know what you're doing. What's making you successful? What would you attribute some of that success to?
Yeah, I mean, it's just getting up and doing the little things like I said. One thing I'm trying to hit on right now is social media and growing just the social media, just part of the business. And I think that just serves with, staying top of mind. And I think it's a little better than, for example, if you're doing 100 calls every day, it's going to take you 2 or 3 hours.
Yep.
Versus, hey, if you're posting once a day on social media, you're almost having that same effect,
Yep.
but it's perpetual. It's always there. It's there forever. It's going to be working for me next month and the month after that.
Yep.
Versus, making a phone call. It's just not the same.
Sure.
It's not the same effect. So I think focusing there is a good idea, and that's kind of what I've been focusing on and trying to do.
Gotcha. And you have a lot of clients now. You've been doing it for a little while and stuff like that. What do you do client appreciation things? Like how are you, showing these clients you care?
Yeah. So what I try to do is every time I meet a client or close a deal, I'll try to put them into a certain, like a little file, if you want to call it that. And it's just, if I have their birthday, which I usually do, I'll try to send something on their birthday, or twice a year. What I like to do is I'll gather up all the clients I've done, and I'll go visit them. I think that's a really big deal, because a lot of the times I think when people, they handle a client, they finish the deal, they just kind of forget about them.
Yeah.
So by me going and seeing them in person, maybe bringing them some cookies or whatever it may be, I think it shows a lot. It shows you do care, and I think that's a big deal, because I don't think people want to feel like you're just using them to get a commission.
Yeah.
It's relationships over transactions. If you really build that relationship, it's gonna blossom, and it's gonna pay off.
I 100% agree. I mean, I've been doing loans for 16 years now, I guess, and most of my business is repeater referral, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just kind of a better way to do business. It's cheaper and stuff like that, I guess. But and are you getting quite a few referrals and stuff like that? I mean, from your business. I mean, that's where a lot of your business comes from.
Absolutely. I think right now maybe 60-70% of my business is all referrals.
That's awesome.
Some come through social media, not as much, because I actually slacked off a little bit this past year.
Sure.
But yeah, the majority of it is referral business.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. And that's, I mean, as you know, it's the best kind of business to have.
Oh yeah, totally is. A lot more loyal, right?
Yeah,
they stick with you. They're not, it's much better. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, agreed. Okay, what about, goals and stuff like that? Do you have any goals for this year as far as things you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, so with doing the top 500 Realtor, I think my goal is just to do it again, or to do better. Obviously, the goal is to do better, but yeah, it's funny that you ask. I actually wasn't even trying to aim for the top 500, but it just kind of happened, and now I feel like there's a bit more pressure that I have to do it again.
Sure,
Shoot,
yeah.
I gotta strap up and get it done. But so that's kind of what I'm shooting for this year.
Gotcha. Still continue to be a top 500 agent. That's awesome. Okay. Which I know you're investing in your business, right? I mean, continuing to put money into it, trying to build your brand, do better and stuff like that. So
yeah, and I think a lot of people, I think that's what they, I think that's a mistake people are making, is not investing in themselves, and I think that's the biggest investment you can make. You are the asset of the business. Without, I could show someone new exactly what I'm doing, and even though they might have all my systems and processes, they probably wouldn't do it as well, because they haven't invested in themselves. They haven't done the training or X, this, that, whatever it may be. So I think that's a huge thing people need to start doing, is just invest in yourself, and I think that you can really start growing that way.
So let's switch gears here a little bit. You know, you say, you know, obviously the markets, you know, you've been doing it for 6 years now. You've seen really, you know, good snippet of the industry during that time, right? You know, the normal high, low kind of thing. What advice are you giving right now to people that are looking to buy a home? You know, maybe let's say first-time home buyers.
Yeah.
These people that are just, hey, man, you know, just a little while it was so low interest rates, stuff like that. I mean, what advice would you give first-time home buyers?
No, good question. I think is just the best piece of advice I could give is to get educated.
Okay.
You know, talk to your real estate agent, your lender, really see what it's going to take to get the house you want. Right now, I think a big thing is, especially with interest rates going up, is people they just have to deal with a higher monthly payment.
Yeah.
And if you're prepared for that, you know, people always ask, hey, is it a good time to buy? Is it with interest rates, is it good? And it's always a good time to buy, you know? If you can manage that payment and get educated and really prepare yourself, have a plan, not just go into it kind of off the cuff. I think that's where you're really going to be successful, whether you're buying, you know, your forever home or your next 10 investment properties. Yeah. That's kind of what I would say. Okay.
What about somebody that's looking to sell a home in this market? You know, should they wait? Is now a good time to sell? Tell me thoughts there, I guess.
Yeah, I think it just depends on your circumstance. Because some people, you know, they have to sell, whether it's, you know, a death in the family, a divorce. That's never fun, but it's a good question. That's a tough one. I think if you have to sell because of that, that'd be great. But if I had a home, I just wouldn't sell it. You know, I would love to have control over a property. That's kind of my goal is. So for me, it's kind of hard to put myself in that position to, hey, is it good to sell a home? Okay.
Yeah. Elaborate on that some more then. So obviously, you know, hey, not selling and stuff like that. Tell me, you know, is that from kind of an investment standpoint?
Yeah.
Is that kind of where you're going with that?
Yeah.
So talk to me about it. Why would somebody do that? If somebody wanted to copy you in that aspect, why would they do that?
Why would they not sell?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the most valuable thing about real estate is not necessarily just buying it to sell. It's having control of the actual property because the property comes with tons and tons of benefits. Not only, you know, the appreciation, you hedge yourself against inflation. Tons of tax benefits come with it. And I think if you really, I mean, the more properties you can hold, the better. So for me, it's a little. I never like when people are like, oh, I want to sell my house just for fun. I don't get that.
Sure.
But yeah, it's a tough answer or a tough question. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at there.
No, you're good. You're good. What would you say to somebody that wants to get into investing? I guess if we want to kind of piggyback that some more, what advice would you give somebody that's, hey, you know, I believe in real estate. I think it's a good avenue for building wealth and stuff like that. What advice would you give to that person? How should they kind of go about getting into a property?
Yeah, good question. So I think the first one is have a plan. You know, just don't just go buy the first property you see or just because it's you heard any real estate is good. I think the most important thing is having a plan, finding a mentor because it's not easy. You know, investing in real estate is, especially after you're moving onto your second, third, fourth property, it tends to be a little different. And if you don't have someone to navigate that, whether it's someone you know personally or someone you maybe follow online like Instagram, YouTube, whatever it may be, as long as you have some sort of guidance, I think that's going to be the biggest thing because it is it's a big deal. You know, you're buying a house. It's a huge expense, and you don't want to mess it up because you know, there might not be positive things coming out of that.
Sure. And is that something somebody can talk to you about? As far as, I mean, is that where?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love the investing side of it. So that's kind of where I think a lot of my that's where my strength is at. Yeah. I love when people are, hey, I want to invest in this, and we kind of get to sit down and make a plan and get them rolling. Because it's always scary when I find someone, they're like, hey, I want to buy an investment property, and they really have no idea what they're looking for, and you know, that investment property could be like the worst property of your life, and it might turn them off, and they'll never want to do it again, it's sad because it's such an amazing thing, and it can change your whole life if you do it right.
Excuse me. And does somebody need to, excuse me. Let's say somebody doesn't want to manage it themselves, right? You know, so like, I mean, you know, hey, I don't want to do, a toilet break, stuff like that. I mean, I know that's one of the scarier things for people, right?
Absolutely.
You know, hey, I don't want to get into real estate because of that. what what would you say to that person that's kind of scared because of just hey, I'm not very handy, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I totally get it because that's a normal concern. I think that's the last thing anyone wants to do is deal with toilets at the middle of the night.
Yeah.
But there are ways around that. One, you can hire a property management company who can take care of that. Some people don't like doing that because they do take a percentage, rightfully so. But it's really not that bad. I mean, most of the stuff you can hire out, and if you do it right and you sit down with someone who can kind of help you plan and set a good plan, you usually have the funds set aside to kind of take care of issues like that. So I would just tell, I think those negatives really don't outweigh the positive things that come with real estate. So I would just tell that person or someone to not be scared of that kind of stuff, to really just embrace it. And it's a whole lot better to have passive income than to maybe deal with a toilet. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I think that's way better. I'd deal with toilets all day if I have passive income.
Yeah. Okay. No, I like it. Okay. What about somebody that kind of still staying in this lane here, I guess, but so switching from investing, but let's say somebody's looking to build a home. What's that process? For building a home.
Yeah. So it's kind of very similar to just buying a normal home.
Okay.
You're mainly just going to be dealing with builders and your real estate agent, but really the builders are the ones that kind of help you out the most, whether it's you're choosing the features, the upgrades that you want your house to have. They kind of guide you through the whole process. It's fairly simple. So you're mainly just dealing with builders, but besides that, it's almost exactly the same as just buying a home that's already built. Yeah.
Sure. Is it a good idea to build? I mean, what do you like building a home? I mean, is that as opposed to existing? Pros or cons?
Yeah, pros and cons of both. I think if you're going back to that investing side, I'd always much rather have a pre-existing home because you can find one, usually better deals, something you can maybe add value to.
Okay.
But if you're really building a home, because you're going to be there quite a while, or maybe you just really want a new home, then go for it. Whatever, you're going to be living there and you're going to make those payments, so whatever makes you happy.
Sure. Like it. Well, okay, so pull out your crystal ball for a second here. So obviously, people are not sure how the market's going to do, and real estate is obviously both a not global but national level, but then very still much a local level, right? You know what I mean? It's what's going on in this local market and stuff. And so, forecast wise, where do you see this market going here in Utah? Over the next, let's say, year to 5-10 years, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I want to say I truly don't know, but my guess is, I think anyone who does tell you they know, they don't know. No one really knows.
Yeah.
But what I can say is, hey, Utah is primed to grow. I think we're going to see huge growth in the next couple of years. I think we're going back to kind of that normal market.
Yeah.
Because people need to just kind of get used to the rates and what's going on with everything. But I think it's going to grow immensely in the next couple of years. I mean, with Lehigh, the Silicon Slopes, big huge growth there, as well as Salt Lake City. Every time I drive, I see new buildings popping up. So
sure, yeah.
I think it's going to keep growing. House inventory is still pretty low.
Yeah.
I don't see it coming down anytime soon.
Okay. So yes, good time.
I would say good time. Yes.
Yeah. Gotcha. And as far as things go, long term, hey, still looking great.
Still looking great. Yeah. If you're buying a home with the right plan, then you shouldn't be scared of the market dropping, because as long as you make those payments, you're still going to reap those the benefits of real estate as time goes on.
Yeah.
So I think if you don't have a plan, maybe that's when you should be scared a little bit.
Gotcha. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. What you've been doing it for 6 years now? Any fun stories from, I was working with this client and this happened or anything like that? Any kind of interesting or funny stories that come to mind over those 6 years? Put you on the spot here, I know. Sorry.
Yeah, no. I can honestly, I can only think of bad stories, right?
Fair enough.
So I'm actually working with someone right now who's buying their first home, and she's struggling because her first payment's going to land at the same time she was going to make her last rent payment. And we offered to help her with that. We want her to be happy in the house she's choosing.
Yeah.
But come to find out, she is, she's trying to take money from us that she wasn't being honest with us.
Oh no.
Which is rare. I usually have never run into something like that. And happy to help her still, but that's kind of something that really threw me back. And in those 6 years I've been doing it, I've never ran into a person who was just dishonest and kind of go through that. Yeah. But no, it's been great. Nothing crazy.
Nothing crazy. That's good. That's good. As far as most of your clients and different things like that, most of them your age, older, different. Tell me demographics wise.
Yeah, I kind of get a little of everything. For example, I think the clients or the leads I get coming through social media are a bit on the younger side.
Yeah.
But I would say it's 50-50. I work with a lot of older demographics. Most of my clientele is Spanish speaking.
Okay.
So I do work with mom and dad who just happen to here I helped a friend or something like that.
Yeah.
But so it's kind of half and half. A lot of young people, a lot of older people.
Excuse me. And you mentioned Spanish speaking. Obviously, you're from Mexico City. You said. So anything different there with people that are not necessarily from this country and stuff like that. Anything, have you found things that kind of help them, advice or different things like that?
Yeah.
Right?
So it's interesting that you ask that. So with at least in my experience with Spanish clientele,
sure,
they have different problems than like maybe the normal type of clientele.
Okay.
A lot of the times I've found they have to jump through a bit more hoops to kind of get to the finish line, which is good and bad. Bad because sometimes it does delay the process a little bit, but good because it's allowed me to learn a lot of things I would have never learned otherwise. And I think that's served me in being able to do more business because it's, hey, I can handle this problem. It's easy now. So I think it comes with good and bad, but yeah, they do have to jump through more hoops as far as in my experience.
Sure.
To be able to get to the finish line.
And elaborate on some of those hoops. If somebody's listening to this and they're what things, not necessarily from your perspective, but from their perspective, what things should they do to better prepare so that they could buy, so there's less hoops for them?
Yeah,
I guess
no, absolutely. So a big one I've run into is, a lot of Spanish clients, they'll tell me, hey, you know what, I'm ready to buy a house and I have 5% down.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that the 5% down was, it's cash that's under their mattress or in a safe.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times we just have to figure out how do we source this money properly, and that's kind of, at first it was really difficult, but now it's like, hey, we know how to deal with this and we can just move a lot faster and easier. Okay. But that's a main one. So if you're listening, put your money in the bank. It's going to help out a lot. It's going to make our job easier and your life easier. Yeah.
Yeah, I've done a lot of Spanish clients, and that is one of the hurdles that I've seen too. Because they're cash, they like it, right? But they have to have it in there for a couple months beforehand, right? So just prepare, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they can put it in the deposit, deposit in the bank and stuff. So I guess on that note, why is a lender, realtor relationship important? I guess in that aspect, why is that important to have a good lender realtor relationship?
Great, because if you find someone who you work well together, is when I was started in the business and before finding a lender that I kind of trust, it was a lot of the times we were getting near the end of the process, and then I found out there's an issue we're dealing with, and I didn't know that we were dealing with this for a week.
Yeah.
So I think the benefit of having a good relationship is, hey, they keep you in the loop. They kind of if something does come up, you're the first one to know, and you can help them figure it out. It's always better to tackle a problem with two minds than one.
Yeah.
So it makes it a lot easier. It makes the process more predictable.
Yeah.
And just a lot easier to handle.
Okay. Awesome. Angel, anything we haven't hit? Anything that we wanted to cover and go over and stuff like that that you want to bring up?
Not at the top of my mind.
We've been pretty thorough, I guess, right?
Yeah.
We've hit this. How do people get a hold of you if they want to, hey, I want to get into business, I want to, get into real estate, either investing or just, hey, I want to buy my first home.
Yeah.
How do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, for sure. So I think the easiest one is just going to be my social media.
Okay.
I'm on Instagram or TikTok. If you guys just want to, send me a message there, I'm always on there. Or if you just want to send me a text on my phone number, that works too.
That works for perfect. Okay, awesome. Well, Angel, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
You know, I'm glad you're doing so well. I'm glad you're surviving in this market, right? You know, it's a little bit harder, you know, but hey, the benefit is the agents that are still around during this market, I think speaks volumes to how, you know, good you are, right?
No,
you know, somebody that's working, hitting the ground, you know, paving the pavement, I guess, as they say, right? You know, so. But anyhow, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan.
Thanks everybody else for listening. You know, like and subscribe to us. Write us a review. We'd love that too. But we'll see you next week on the Work Hard, Play Hard podcast.